In life, sometimes success and wealth cannot fill the void in the heart. Jack Harris, a millionaire with a powerful financial empire and a luxurious mansion, is facing deep loneliness. Having lost his beloved wife Anna in an accident 20 years ago, Jack seems to have lost all reason to live. Despite having everything, he feels as though he is living in a world without purpose, with only painful memories left. But then, one rainy night, Jack meets a young woman under the porch, holding a newborn baby in her arms, and his life begins to change forever. A fateful encounter forces him to face deep secrets he never knew, opening up a new opportunity, a hope he never dreamed of. The story of Jack, Sarah, and Daniel will make you think about love, forgiveness, and second chances in life. Jack Harris sat in a fancy restaurant in Boston. Amidst the murmur of conversations and the clink of knives and spoons on plates, but all those sounds were invisible to him. He paid no attention to the exquisite dishes, the seductive sips of red wine, or the laughter of the partners discussing business. Despite his great success with a strong financial empire, a magnificent mansion, and promising meetings, to Jack everything was just an illusion. He felt like he was living in an unreal world, a world where he could find no meaning except in old memories. The only loss in his life was Anna, his late wife, whom he had loved deeply. Anna was not only his life partner, but also his soulmate, the one who brought Jack all the joy and peace in the happy years they had built together. But then, a traffic accident took her away. Anna died suddenly, and Jack could not escape the pain of losing her. Every morning when he woke up, he felt lost in this big world, with no one to share it with, no one to love. Despite having everything in the world, Jack still lived in loneliness. He had no children, and Anna had never wanted children during the years they were together. That now made him feel even emptier. Every day, he woke up, went back to work, attended important meetings, and participated in lavish parties, but all of it was just temporary, unable to ease the loneliness in his soul. Today was the same. Jack was sitting in this restaurant, not because he wanted to enjoy a delicious meal, but simply because he didn't know what to do with himself. Every sip of wine reminded him of old memories with Anna. She had always loved this wine. If she were here, she would laugh happily when I took a sip, right? Jack asked himself as he looked out the window. The rain began to fall harder. The raindrops pattered on the glass like tears that had yet to fall. Jack felt like those raindrops were the separation, the loss that he had to endure. He couldn't escape this feeling. The world outside continued to operate, but to Jack, everything was just a blurry scene, without purpose, without joy. When dinner was over, Jack stood up and walked out of the restaurant. The feeling of fatigue seemed to eat away at him. He stepped out into the rain, putting on a thick coat to ward off the cold. The city of Boston bustled around him, cars and people moving frantically, but it all seemed meaningless to him. He walked in silence, like a ghost in the crowd. The familiar streets, the towering buildings, could not bring him a sense of peace. Every corner, every building was filled with memories of Anna, and all that remained were ghosts. Jack didn't know where he was going, but he just kept walking aimlessly. Suddenly, a strange feeling made him stop. The rain was still falling, but he felt like there was something in the air that made him halt. It was a strange sensation he couldn't explain. After leaving the restaurant, Jack continued to walk on the empty street, the rain still falling. It was late at night, but the city was still not asleep. Cars passed by, and neon lights reflected on the wet road, creating faint streaks of light. Jack was in no hurry, nor did he have anywhere to go. He just walked in silence, letting the rain soothe the emotions in his heart. Passing a small street with yellow lights shining from the windows, Jack happened to see an image that made him stop. Under the awning of a small shop, a young woman sat huddled, holding a child in her arms. She was wearing a thin coat, the rain soaked her shoulders and hair, and she looked very weak. The child in her arms was only a newborn, unaware of the world around her, sleeping soundly. That image made Jack feel confused, a sensation that was very strange, yet somehow familiar, filling his heart. The sight reminded him of the happy days with Anna. They had dreamed of a family, of a child they could both care for and love. But now those dreams were gone. He had no children, and that was part of the pain he could not overcome. Jack stood silently, watching the woman for a moment. She looked tired, her movements sluggish, as if she had been battling a difficult life for a long time. Even though he knew nothing about her, Jack felt a strange sympathy. She was like a mirror image of himself, someone struggling with loneliness and suffering, except he had everything materially, and she had nothing but a child. Unable to ignore it, Jack walked toward her, feeling an invisible force pulling him closer. "Do you need help?" His voice rang out, soft but firm. He didn't usually get involved in situations like this, but something inside him urged him to act. The woman looked up, her eyes red, filled with surprise and gratitude. She looked at Jack for a moment and then smiled, albeit awkwardly. "Thank you. Thank you very much," she whispered. Jack stood there, not knowing what else to say. He didn't know her name, didn't know her situation, but in that moment, some kind of connection between them had formed. He pulled out his wallet, took out a wad of money, and handed it to her. "Use this to buy food for yourself and the baby," he said, his voice a little softer, as if he wanted to do something to help her. The woman said nothing, just nodded and took the money. Her eyes were filled with tears, but Jack didn't look back. He turned away, continuing to walk through the rain. However, when he turned back, a strange feeling in his heart still lingered. He felt like he had done something right, but at the same time, he felt like he had connected with a very deep part of himself, the pain and loneliness that both he and this girl carried inside. All the way home, Jack couldn't stop thinking about that woman. Did she really need help? He didn't know, but it made him feel like a part of himself had been awakened, a part of him that he hadn't recognized for a long time. The girl and the child had become an indelible image in his mind. The next morning, Jack woke up in his apartment, the dim light coming through the curtains, but it couldn't dispel the tired and heavy feeling inside him. Last night's rain was still lingering on the windows, and the city of Boston outside was still immersed in the cold air. He didn't have many plans for today. He would simply continue like every day, visit Anna's grave, and live in solitude. Every morning, after waking up, Jack's habit was to visit the cemetery where Anna was buried. It was the only place he felt close to her, where he could stand silently, talking to her as if she were still by his side. Every time he visited, he remembered the sweet days when they were together. But since she died, everything had changed. The cemetery, her tombstone, all became painful memories that he couldn't overcome. Today was the same. Jack drove to the cemetery, not in a hurry, nothing special. When he got there, he stopped in front of Anna's gravestone, where she had been lying for the past 20 years. A feeling of sadness filled his heart, as always. He stood there, saying nothing, just looking at the inscription on the gravestone. Anna Harris, infinitely loved. Suddenly, a figure appeared in front of him, not far away. Jack saw a woman standing near Anna's grave, staring intently at the gravestone. It was Sarah, the woman he had met last night under the porch. She didn't seem to be in a hurry, just standing there, as if searching for something she couldn't find. The feeling of surprise made Jack stand still for a moment. He didn't know how to react. Sarah recognized him and turned around, walking quickly toward him, her eyes red as if she had been crying. You're the one from last night, right?" Sarah asked, her voice choked. Jack nodded, feeling strangely at ease in the moment. He didn't know what he was going to say, but he sensed something important was about to be revealed. I'm Sarah," she continued, her eyes full of worry, but there was a certain determination in her voice. "I know you won't believe me, but Anna is my mother." Jack froze. Sarah's words were a shock. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. Anna, the wife he loved, the woman he thought he knew, had a daughter he had never known. It was a painful and unacceptable truth. "What did you say?" Jack stammered, unable to believe what he was hearing. He didn't understand why Anna had kept such a big secret from him, why she hadn't told him about her child, about Sarah's existence. Sarah looked at him with emotion in her eyes. "I only found out about you recently," she said, her voice breaking. "My mother, she hid everything from him. But now I know, and I think you're the last person I'll ever go to." Jack said nothing, just stood there, feeling like his world had come crashing down around him. He didn't know what to feel. He felt confused, angry, hurt, all at once. You're Anna's daughter?" Jack asked again, his eyes wide as if to confirm the unbelievable fact once more. Sarah nodded, tears starting to roll down her cheeks. Yes, and this baby is your grandchild, she said, pointing at the sleeping child in her arms. My child. Daniel is his name. I came to you to learn more about my mother, about you, and to get some help. I don't know what to do. Jack felt like he had just received a huge shock. Every word Sarah said made him stand on the edge of surprise and pain. Why did Anna hide everything from him? Why did she let him live in ignorance of Sarah's existence, of the child she carried? A series of unanswered questions swirled in Jack's mind. A feeling of helplessness welled up in his heart. His whole life had been shrouded in such a huge secret that he had no idea about. And now, the woman standing before him, with his grandchild in her arms, was someone he had never known, never had the chance to understand. Jack stood silently, his eyes fixed on Sarah and the baby in her arms. Her words echoed in his head like a never-ending reverberation, making it impossible for him to accept the truth. Anna, the wife he loved, had kept such a big secret from him for so many years. Why hadn't she given him a chance to know Sarah? Why had she kept her child in the dark? It felt like the ground was crumbling beneath his feet. He had always thought he understood Anna, that there were no secrets between them. They had been through so much together, and now it all seemed like a lie, a drama he hadn't known about. He felt betrayed, like his whole life had been covered by a thick fog that he couldn't see through. Sarah looked at him, her eyes filled with sympathy and concern. I know how you feel, but my mother didn't want him to know about me. I only found out after she died. And now I'm here to understand him and my mother and to seek help. Jack couldn't look her in the eye anymore. He felt the anger and pain inside him bursting. You don't understand. Anna didn't tell me about her daughter? Why did she hide it from me? His voice shook with anger, as if every emotion inside him was exploding. Sarah bowed her head, not knowing what to say to ease the pain Jack was feeling. I don't know why. Maybe my mother thought he wouldn't accept an unwanted child. Maybe she was afraid he wouldn't accept the responsibility of being a father. But I don't understand why. My mother was a good person, and I know she loved him very much. I think she just wanted to protect him. Jack shook his head, unable to stop the anger and disappointment inside him. He couldn't accept that Anna had kept such a big truth from him. He couldn't understand why, all those years, she hadn't told him that they had a daughter. He felt abandoned, like a part of his life had been stolen from him and he never had a chance to receive it. How can I believe anything anymore? Jack said, his voice hoarse. I just can't understand. Why would Anna do this? If she really loved me, why would she keep this to herself and never tell me? Sarah stepped closer to him, her eyes soft and sympathetic. I don't know why, but I understand how you feel. I'm just learning about you and what my mother did. But now, I want to know more about you. I want to know why my mother did what she did. And I want to know if you'll give me a chance to get to know you. Jack looked at Sarah and the baby in her arms, mixed emotions continuing to well up inside him. Part of him wanted to know more, to understand more about Anna's past, about why she had hidden this from him. But another part of him felt angry and hurt. Why was it all a lie? After a long moment, Jack sighed, his shoulders slumping as if the weight of the world was pressing down on him. He looked into Sarah's eyes and the baby in her arms. The feeling of helplessness in him still couldn't be dispelled, but part of him also wanted to understand more about the daughter and grandson he had never known. Okay, Jack finally said, his voice softer, though there was still confusion in it. I can't change the past, but I will try to understand things better. Maybe we can start over here, even if it's late. Sarah nodded slightly, a quiet smile appearing on her lips, though her eyes still held sadness. Thank you for giving me this chance. Jack felt like he was at a crossroads in his life, a crossroads he never thought he would have to face. The past few days, feelings of confusion and anger had been haunting him, as if there was no way out. But today, looking into Sarah's hopeful eyes, he realized that perhaps he could not live in the past, could not continue to lament what had been lost. No matter how painful it was, he needed to accept the truth and start over. With a doubtful decision, Jack opened his heart to learn about Anna's past through what Sarah could share. It wasn't easy, but deep down, he knew that this was the only chance to start over, to reconnect with a missed for so many years. Sarah and Daniel had become an important part of his life, and although he didn't know exactly what they would bring him, he felt that some connection, however small, was forming. Over the next few days, Jack and Sarah saw each other more often. They talked about Anna, about her days before she died, and about the secrets Anna had kept. Jack listened to Sarah tell him about her childhood, about the hardships her mother had gone through, and the reasons why Anna might have hidden the truth about her daughter from him. Those stories, although they couldn't erase the pain in Jack's heart, at least helped him understand more about his wife and the decisions she had to make in the past. One day, when Sarah brought Daniel to visit Jack, they sat together in the living room of his mansion. Jack looked at the child in Sarah's arms, and a warm feeling rose in his heart. Even though he wasn't Daniel's biological father, he felt a connection. This child was his nephew, a part of Anna, and he carried within him a part of the family Jack had missed all these years. "Thank you for accepting us," Sarah said, her eyes shining with gratitude. "I know it wasn't easy, but at least you opened up to me and Daniel." Jack smiled, but there were still unanswered questions in his heart. "Thank you for coming to me. I may not be able to change the past, but I will try to do something for the future, for Daniel and you." They continued to talk, and although there were still gaps in their relationship, Jack felt that they were at least getting closer to rebuilding a family. He understood that he couldn't change what had happened, but he could change how he faced the present and the future. In the following days, Jack and Sarah's relationship grew better and better. Together they took care of Daniel, sharing peaceful moments in life. Jack began to realize that even though Anna was gone, she had left him a chance to start over. He no longer felt as alone as before, although the wounds in his heart had not yet healed. But at least he was no longer living in the past, and he began to see the light of a new future. One afternoon, as the three of them sat in the park, watching Daniel play in the grass, Jack felt renewed. The feeling of being loved and needed, something he had not felt for years, was returning to him. He knew that he could not go back to the past, but he also knew that if he allowed himself to move forward, life would continue to open up new possibilities. "Maybe we will never know all the reasons why your mother kept this from me," Jack said as he looked into Sarah's eyes, his voice low, but there was still a hint of relief in it. "But I won't let those secrets stop us anymore. I'll do whatever it takes to make this happen." Sarah smiled, gently placing her hand on his shoulder. "Thank you, and I'll do whatever it takes to make Daniel's future a better one." Jack suddenly realized that forgiveness and new love would help him heal the wounds of the past. He didn't need to understand everything, didn't need to have all the answers. He just needed to accept and move on. Spring has come, bringing with it a new breeze and warm sunshine. Boston is gradually becoming less cold, and the long rains have given way to clear blue skies. Jack feels the change in the air, not only from the weather, but also from his heart. The days of loneliness and suffering now seem to have faded. He is no longer immersed in the sadness of the past, but has begun to look to the future, where Sarah and Daniel are. They are the new light in his life, and that makes him feel that life still has a chance, still has a reason to continue. Jack and Sarah are no longer strangers. They have overcome many challenges together and faced old pains together. Jack has begun to realize that this relationship, although it cannot erase the losses of the past, gives him a new hope, a reason to love and devote. And that has made him stronger than ever. One afternoon, as the three of them sat in the park, Jack saw Daniel playing with the other children. Daniel's eyes were pure and innocent, completely unaware of the pain his grandfather had gone through. Daniel smiled at Jack, his eyes wide with curiosity about the world around him. A warm feeling filled Jack's heart, as if, for the first time in years, he felt like he had a real family. Sarah sat next to Jack, her eyes soft as she looked at him. "I think my mother would be so proud of him," she said, her voice soft but sincere. She always wanted him to find happiness, even though she couldn't be here to see it. Jack looked at Sarah, a small smile playing on his lips. "I don't know if I can change everything in the past," he said, his voice low, but I know one thing for sure. I can't live in my pain forever. Anna will always be in my heart, but I need to live for the present and the future. And the present, this future has us. Sarah smiled, a hopeful smile. Yes, we will start over together, and Daniel will have a loving family. Looking into Sarah and Daniel's bright eyes, Jack felt lighter than ever. He realized that, although life had taken many things from him, it had also given him a second chance. He had lost many things, but now he not only had the chance to rebuild his family, but also the chance to live a more meaningful, fulfilling life. Since Sarah and Daniel came into his life, Jack no longer felt like a lonely person. Every day, he found himself changing. Every day, he found himself learning to love, to forgive, and to see life from a different perspective. He no longer had to fight with the past, but instead, he fought to preserve and build a future. One afternoon, as the sun set, the three of them stood on the balcony of the villa, looking out at the city in the last light of the day. Jack felt something very real, very deep in this moment. He no longer saw the city as it used to be, just a cold, strange place. Now with Sarah and Daniel, he saw a home, a place he could love and protect. "We will get through everything together," Jack said, his voice full of faith. Sarah nodded, her eyes filled with determination. "Yes, we will build a real family together." Daniel played below, smiling innocently like a promise of a bright future ahead.